Okay, I'm just hitting record. What an intense time on Earth right now. Infinite angles to address that one sentence, to expand from that one sentence. There are infinite ways to expand on the sentence that this is such an intense time on Earth right now. The overwhelm of that alone could totally overtake me. The deep breathing helps. Really, I mean, especially because it's practiced at this point, but the deep breathing brings spaciousness into a crowded mind. And in a spacious mind, what's crossing my mind now is that in a spacious mind, it's the lightest thoughts that win. The heavier ones are further away. Which feels like a really important thing to notice, and I've never noticed it particularly exactly in those words before. I was just watching videos on YouTube, the Soft White Underbelly channel. A few videos of men with schizophrenia living on the street, living in Skid Row in LA. One very literate, very communicative, very, very clear speaker describing his inner experience and his inner experience very, very clearly. A lot of really heavy thoughts, horror, that sometimes have the power to lead him in certain directions. The other man was extremely quiet and slow-spoken. And I can see my kid's dad in both of them. I can hear him. I can see him. That's scary, is what I hear in my mind right now. That's the thought crossing my mind. And before hitting record, I was just wobbling on a line. Of kind of letting those feelings of fear sweep me up. Or taking the deep breaths and staying clear. Fear leads us to try to control things outside of our own little bubble. And by bubble, I mean just the space around my body. That's my bubble. There's like an egg or a sphere around me. That's my realm of influence. It's through my relationship with that bubble that I have any influence on anything. And I have a lot more clear, direct influence in a direction of a desired outcome when I am spacious, when my mind is spacious and it's those lighter thoughts. Light, when I'm saying light, I'm referring to weight, the weight of a thought, but I guess also in terms of light and dark, both apply. Light thoughts, which isn't to bypass heavy or dark thoughts, it just allows them to be not at the forefront, they are not leading. And I think I'm having this clear experience. I'm able to be aware of this because I have made friends with the possibility and the capacity for dark and heavy thoughts. I do not identify with the experience of schizophrenia, and yet I've been very close to it, and I have felt it move through me in ways, like I have felt in the middle of it in ways. I have great compassion for it. And I must. And in a spiritual sense, we're all one. We're all reflections of each other. We're all the same, but we're all different. It becomes a very wacky, wonky hall of mirrors that one can never figure out. It's the figuring, it's the obsessive figuring that comes from this competitive energy of the judgmental way of being, good or bad, right or wrong, light or dark, heavy or light. That one could exist without the other, that one is more worth choosing or more worth attention. That's not what I'm saying, or that's not what is motivating my awareness or my sharing of the intention or the integrity to have a spacious mind so that the light thoughts are leading. The light thoughts can only lead in a sufficient, efficient, sustainable, effective way, and all of those terms in their truest form, in their highest form, entails radical compassion, which is what I'm talking about. The light can only lead because it's taking the heavy or the dark into account. It is not turning its back on it. It is one with it. And that is where the heaviness doesn't have to be front and center to be recognized. It's like the sediment on the bottom of the ocean. It can get stirred up. It can also settle down. So it's not about pretending or trying to force it not to be there. It's about building the capacity to be the calm in the center of the storm when it is stirred up. Breathing helps. Conscious relationship with breathing is a very top resource. and experiencing periods where the sediment isn't stirred up, that's your chance to build the tools. Every day, all day is fodder for building the tools. That's my experience of life. Having to be on. Having to choose and build those tools. Experiencing storms that require such a precision, such an accuracy of presence. Because of the embodiment of the Hall of Mirrors that I referred to a few minutes ago, the enacted, embodied flexibility of character, of the psyche, of the experiential reality of humans. And I think society's approach is to shut down that flexibility and that openness that this kind of experiencing comes through or comes from, happens in people who are naturally flexible and open. And I think I'm what feels purposeful, what feels serviceful, what feels true in my heart. I'm really drawn to my heart right now. Feels lit up. What feels true is that I am here to claim flexibility and openness. And I have been in my private life and dabbling in layers of public expression. And it's time. Those are the words floating through my mind. Someone told me last week that only 30 to 50% of people have ongoing dialogue in their inner experience, and that was like a slap to the face. It was flabbergasting. I was flabbergasted. Truly, I don't remember. Not much shocks me the way that did. Not much hits me, silences me, and stretches me the way that information did. And I thought, oh, that's exactly it. That's neurodiversity. The neurodiverse are those 30 to 50%, and I dare say it has to be 50% because everything comes with its equal opposite. And so then people who are not experiencing ongoing inner dialogue would be neurotypical, and it must be a very, very different experience. I can barely imagine what it would be like, and yet I think I'm also cultivating that capacity, the spaciousness. It's the closest I can get to imagining what it might be like not to have so many layers of thought and awareness going on all at once, all the time. And I can completely understand how it can be experienced in various ways that feel or look like illness. And yet it is so expressly spiritual are the words that are coming, and I paused just to kind of examine that, because it didn't really immediately make sense to me. But like express, like the expressway, it's like the fast route, it's the loophole. And for many years, loophole has been a word I keep being drawn to play with, or I'm noticing that I am finding loopholes in, let's just say, paperwork, as an example that everyday people can relate to. And it's not that, it's not, I think where my mind is going is that maybe some people immediately assumed I'm talking about loopholes like portals or interdimensional traveling, and because that would, either they're into that or they're scared of that, or that would affirm something about my mental state. But actually the most prominent example for me was the paperwork, and finding just ways of doing less paperwork, ways of meeting goals or needs with fewer steps. So it's an express route. This flexibility and openness is an express route to enlightenment. And enlightenment is beyond consciousness. It's a harmonious, deeply peaceful experience of collective consciousness, of being connected to everything. Of being an empty vessel. But for that to be functional, we really have to take care of our body. The body is the vessel for that experience. Just the words crossing my mind are like conditioning, attachment, security, like all of our core patterning for the vast majority of us at this point. That was all formed from conception to 3 years old. How we form attachments, how we express ourselves, and how we relate to the world around us. There are 3 core patterns formed in those first 3 years. Most of us are being trained immediately out of our healthy relationship with flexibility and openness, which I dare say is a need, a core need for neurotypicals and neurodivergent people alike. It's a human need. And it's a need for all of us because it has to be a win-win situation. There's a whole lot to go into exploring that win-win, but it's a balanced equation between equal opposites. They're always equal. It's just the reality of energy. Everything is simply energy. And there really are layers of simplicity to go to address the vast complexities. And I have really pressured myself and experienced life as a pressure cooker to find and live in some of those layers of simplicity. I have experienced my own drive for a specific freedom that I really don't I haven't met a lot of people that I can relate to about that. And I'm honored, and I'm exhausted, and I'm excited, and I'm horrified, and I don't really identify with any of those statements. They just felt true in the moment that I was saying them. Because there were thoughts that were crossing my mind, and then I was having a sensation of yes towards those thoughts. Yes, I resonate with that. Yes, I experience that. And really accessing flexibility and openness in a way that can be centered and anchored and healthy and emotionally, energetically, mentally intelligent, functional, grounded. I'm getting distracted by my dog here. Hi, Chewy. To be flexible and open is to be enlightened, is to have no identity. And I resist saying that because my own self as a human is like, what the fuck? How can that be? Still hanging on, because how will I function in my life if I don't? And if I don't, then how do I take care of my kid, my animals, and a huge part of me in spending the past decade and then amplified for the past 5 years really embracing flexibility and openness through a variety of experiments and determinations, but also some that really stand out as like those things were the most impactful, those things created the most express route to the relief and the fulfillment as a flexible, open person. My kid is watching Octonauts in the background, if you're wondering what those noises are. Trying to connect to the train of thought that was going there. You know, I've never definitely, I don't know anybody who has a desire per se to be locked up, that I am grateful that I have evaded much attention in terms of being analyzed for sanity or psychological capacity. Because, to be honest, my psychological capacity far exceeds what I am witnessing around me most of the time, and that doesn't make me feel sane. And yet I experience sanity in a way that I see the people around me aching for, craving, desperate, dying for. And I mean, and the thing is, that's what it takes. It's many ego deaths. I just had this funny little puffy deep breath move through, but it felt really good. the thing, is breathing does, but as you take deeper and deeper breaths, or as you breathe consciously, you have to be able to navigate the sensations to really anchor yourself in the middle of your experience, in the middle of that spaciousness. Because the spaciousness is quite boundless, like you are opening towards infinity, infinite perspectives, infinite expressions, infinite angles to look at anything and everything, infinite ways of experiencing anything and everything. It's a lot. What's true, what's not true. People get lost in that. I mean, our systems and societies are lost in that. And then people, let's say with schizophrenia, are expressing how one can get fixed in some uncommon perspectives. And the allure of that, and the videos I was watching were particularly people who are active addicts, the allure of fixing in a different layer of reality when what's quote unquote real around you really doesn't have room for you, or your flexibility or openness, and the way that you are experiencing the psyche on the inside. Heavy thoughts are dangerous when you don't have a relationship with spaciousness, when you don't have a way back, when you don't have the muscle memory built up to just kick into gear, to hold you in the center of the storm, to anchor you in your own center when everything is swirling around you and there's some voices, some storylines, some options, some learned behaviors or absorbed behaviors, some influences, whatever, are strong because of exposure, because of just, again, infinite factors. It's your relationship with feeling and sensation. The word intuition can be used there, but that word is used in a variety of ways in our cultural contexts that take it away from just being a pure witnessing presence to feeling and sensation. And when you build that capacity, you can watch your thoughts in a different way, where you're not identifying with them. And you notice that thought moved through and that sensation popped up. And you start to experience thoughts and feelings on different tracks. You can watch them in a different way, and it doesn't have the power to swirl you up the same way maybe it did before you started practicing these skills and feeling the spaciousness there and feeling the access to your own center. I haven't thought about it in these terms for quite a while, but it's like that. It's being in your own center allows you to basically tightrope walk the razor's edge of consciousness, the razor's edge of compassion. And that's what I was referring to earlier when I said I was kind of wobbling on this edge of fear, of letting fear sweep me up. Or leaning back, basically relaxing into the muscle memory I've built of taking deep breaths. But there's also still a pretty decent amount of muscle memory of freaking out, panicking, doing desperate things, doing disassociated things. I ate a whole bag of chips yesterday. I ate 3 donuts today, to be honest. And those things I'm sharing because that shows me that something big is going on inside of me that I'm not letting myself totally drop into some pain or fear, grief, guilt, shame, humiliation, probably something like that that's hot to touch, that my ego is either is believing I don't have time for, or I don't really want to go there. I got things to do. It's never really ideal, but I have been grooming my system into willingness, and part of that willingness is a big part is noticing those behavioral things, and then asking the questions. What am I hiding from? What am I disconnecting from? And the answers aren't necessarily there. Sometimes, there's a thought that crosses my mind immediately, and that's basically an intuitive answer. That's an inner knowing. Listening for those subtle, asking questions and listening for that subtle first answer, that's a great practice. But the answers come. Most people don't ask the questions because we are afraid of the answers, because we don't have the skills to center ourselves in the middle of the waterfall of emotion that is the answer, because it's like anything that's bothering us is a reflection of something stuck in our system. And what's stuck? Energy. And what's emotion? It's energy. It's like it was a sensational feeling experience that was suppressed, that was stopped, as opposed to fully experienced and allowed to pass all the way through. So I'm guessing that the different work and things I've been experiencing, the questions I've been asking, an answer is trying to come up. Something's stuck. I have been excavating lots, and something that I was able to ignore is coming to the surface, and it's subconscious. So it's tricky to touch. It's tricky to allow. There's so many mechanisms, there's so much conditioning, there's so many beliefs in the collective that whatever it is should probably stay down, or that is how we function, that's how we survive, that's how we exist. And to introduce myself more, I am someone who dabbles in a lot of different directions to feel what is resonant, and one of those directions that I've dabbled in is a mystery school for this kind of internal personal alchemy that we were talking about, opening up to experience the full spectrum of sensational experiencing, and the balancing of equal opposites, and the liberation, emotional, psychological, material, spiritual liberation that comes from that work. And the facilitator feels like the word I want to use. The facilitator, a doctor of cultural studies, an avid student of psychology, often quoted Carl Jung, that we must make the unconscious conscious, or it will rule your life and you will call it fate, right? And that is how most people are living, and I can only imagine imagine that neurotypicals are having more of an experience of fate because they're not having the inner dialogue between all the parts, between all the equal opposites all the time. Not experiencing the option of excavating the unconsciousness. They're not experiencing the option of excavating the unconscious as actively as a neurodivergent. And so I feel that that is part of my responsibility of having this experience of neurodivergence. Right now I'm doing a workshop with some cool healers is what I was going to say. They're really into how emotion, how energy gets stored in the body, and how we can stroke that out of ourselves so that we experience more of that emotional, psychological, material, spiritual freedom. And so right now we're going through the vertebrae in the cervical spine. And today we're talking about C6 and being a fixer. And so I'm really asking myself, like, what's motivated me in this work with myself? As I am experiencing myself, I don't go doing so much research. I don't really know where the expression of all of this is at all over the world. I know what crosses my path and what that informs me of, and I'm feeling like the conversation I'm having with you right now is the leading edge of some layers of awareness that are really needed, really useful on Earth at this time. In words that I'm wanting to be accessible, and I guess that's my question to myself is it enough that I've offered this to myself? Am I enough as I am? And is trying to offer anyone else anything really worthwhile? Is that really what I'm meant to do? Is it really as benevolent as it seems or as it feels sometimes? Is it the most benevolent thing I can do? I'm going to leave it at that for now. Thanks for listening. And I say that in that I really felt that ricochet back to me. Like, I'm really, really grateful to myself right now for letting myself speak. I'm grateful to hear myself speaking. I'm grateful to be with myself in this. And I'm feeling really, really safe. All this deep breathing, all of this just slow narrating of thoughts and sensations and sharing this time and space with myself and whomever is attracted towards it. But I feel fulfilled just in the spirit experience of me recording myself right now as it held this container around me to let this
come forward, and I'm getting to experience it as it comes forward, and it feels really worthwhile, really nourishing. I feel really present in my belly, in my heart, and in a really spacious state of mind. That's the goal. That's it. That's the aim. That is a very, very benevolent contribution. I feel the truth of that in my whole body, in my whole being right now. And that's what I wished for myself, was to find my way here. And I would wish this experience on anyone and everyone.